Okay, we left off Yud Beis, page 302. 302, Yud Beis in Mishna Berura. So the Ramad said, when do we say that Nes Mitzvah takes precedence of Kriyas Megillah? We're only delaying the reading of Megillah. That means you're able to do both, but if you're actually not going to fulfill the mitzvah because of Kriyas Megillah, then Kriyas Megillah is overridden. But the Efshir L'Koro, the Mes Mitzvah. When does Mes Mitzvah take precedence over Megillah? It's only if you can be able to read the Megillah. But if you're not able to read the Megillah, by the time you finish with the Mes Mitzvah, there's not going to be time to read the Megillah. Then you first read the Megillah, and then you attend to the needs of the Mes. Yikra Megillah, if you're right before nightfall. So it's now or never. You're not going to be able to read the Megillah. Nightfall comes. Do Mes Mitzvah Efshel cover Balayla. Vini Zehetik Ramo B'Shem Marenu, this Mizrahi, Rabbi Leo Mizrahi, that he's the commentator on Rashi and Chumash. Avol Kama Achron M'Cholkim Al Zeh, Som Da'afilu Bo V'Sheyidoche HaMegillah Gamri. Here, if it's Mes Mitzvah, even though the Megillah will be actually canceled totally, you're not going to read the Megillah. Gam Kein HaMes Mitzvah Kodem Mishum Kavod HaBrios. The Gemara says in a number of places. First time it's mentioned in Brochus. The Kavod HaBrios is Doche Losa Shisha B'Torah. That Kavod HaBrios supersedes even Losa Shisha B'Torah. For instance, Gemara says that if you find a lost item belonging to a Jew, you have an obligation to return it. What about if it's Zokin Ve'en L'fi Chvodo? This person is Talmud Chochem. If it would be his own item, he wouldn't carry this in the street. Let's see, it's a crate of oranges. In the street, somebody had left a crate, forgotten a crate of oranges. So an ordinary person would carry a crate of oranges himself. It would be his own, he would carry it in the street. But this person, because of his stature as a Talmud Chochem, wouldn't do it. Because it's not becoming for a man of his stature to carry it. He has no obligation to return that lost article. Okay, but the Gemara speaks specifically. Zokein vein l'fi chavodo. It says zokein, doesn't say a person for whatever reason, because he took on a certain persona, and therefore it's beneath his dignity. It's truly not. It's not befitting for a person of his stature. He's not. Why? It's Kavod HaBrios. Kavod HaBrios. The man's a disgrace. He's lying in disgrace. The Torah allows a Kohen Gadol to contaminate to a Mes Mitzvah. It is Kavod HaBrios. No question. That's the ultimate Kavod HaBrios. The body, everything, the different degrees of Kavod HaBrios. I mean, the Gemara says in Shabbos we had that there's certain types of muktzah for Kavod HaBrios. Kavod HaBrios overrides it. The person has to pick up a stone to clean himself after he has his bodily functions. Even though the stone is muktzah, we allow it because of Kavod HaBrios. A person has to be cleaned. Okay, so good. That's Kavod HaBrios. Okay, look, I'm not here to review Shas with you. We're trying to learn Hilchos Megillah right now. Kavod HaBrios is simple. Whenever it's a question of disgrace, it's like the Chofetz Chaim writes. He says, the cost of printing is very expensive. I can give one example, and the rest you'll draw from that to others. Okay? That we speak about Kavod HaBrios, that burying the dead would override the Megillah even to cancel, it's only Mes Mitzvah. It's not just an ordinary funeral. The person dies, you're going to delay the funeral. But here where you're actually, the person really has been abandoned or nobody's them, that's the ultimate. But where Megillah is going to be canceled totally, you bury the mess at night. So, but it seems to be, what about, as a result of reading the Megillah, you're going to actually, it's going to be postponed, that you're not going to be able to bury the dead, a day's going to pass. Then it's a problem. That's Nisa Doraisa. Right? A person should be buried the day he dies. Right? That's before Amud HaShachar. He has to be buried before Amud HaShachar. Right? Be like Purim's on Friday. But even without that, you don't even have to come to that. A person has to be buried before dawn. And if you can. But if you can't, okay, so it's not for his kavod, you delay the burial. Let's say you have if you have the burial the day the person dies, the family's not going to be there, right? Because they're out of town. So you delay the burial, because that's kavod hames. It's kavod hames. His family should be at the funeral. So you wait for the family to come. What about if you bury him on the day that he dies? There'll be very few people at the funeral, and based on who he is, it's not respectful that so few people should be there. So they delay the burial so that more people should come. This always comes up with Gedolei Yisrael. You can bury the person immediately, or you wait, right? Kavod hames. No, kavod hames. You go to it's kavod hames. That's eulogy. It's a hesped. The hesped is it kavod? Is it kavod for the dead, or is it kavod for the living, for the family? No, that's eulogy. The actual burial that's kavod hames, right? The Gemara says if you have 2 days Yom Tif, the second day Yom Tif, even if you have to make the shrouds on Yom Tif, even if you have to do the actual burial, he's buried by Jews, not by Goyim. The second day Yom Tif, that's kavod hames. For dawn, yeah. If he dies the day, then you have night. Before dawn, he should be buried. If you can. Israel, they bury at nighttime. Up in Monroe, or they have burials at nighttime. They don't, New York is very controlled by the unions. So once 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the cemetery shuts down. You can't open the grave. It's not possible. But out of the city itself, they have burials at nighttime.
But is it halachically allowed?
Of course, you're supposed to bury the person as soon as you can. It's preferred. Okay?
Persons that prefer that their body not be buried as opposed to having people talk about it. I mean, this is talking about kavod hames, is what's better for the person who's no longer alive. The person that's no longer alive is the person who will talk about it.
No, you don't understand. What is the value of the hesped? What is the value? Because if the people are inspired because the person, now there's a void, and they're going to do mitzvahs, that accrues to the person who died. That's a schus for the person. I'm not talking about, I remember many years ago, there was, when Javits passed away, Senator Javits. He was a Sephardic Jew, came from the Chosed Yavits. He was in Senator Chosed Yavits. Jacob Javits. You only know because there's still a Javits Center, otherwise you'd have forgotten about him. But he came from Sephardim. So I remember, I think he was married when he was an older. He was married to a younger woman. I don't think it was his first marriage. So they spoke about him. That this is what they said at the funeral. Because I read it. That he was able to dance a certain kind of dance like a young man. That was something to speak about him at his funeral. You understand? Okay. So that's kavod hames. Better put him in the grave and let him be buried before that. Nobody's going to be inspired, to do mitzvahs with that kind of talk. Okay?
There's a bigger crowd on email, which goes to Brian's question about covering
Is that your Afrikaans name, or is that your English name? Okay. Okay. No, you understand. It has having a larger crowd where the mess is actually being pained. The laying of funeral is not in the best interest of a person who dies. Because if the neshama cannot detach itself, cannot ascend to heaven to be judged until the grave is closed. So if it has value, it has value. But if it has no value, what's the point of delay? Al Sharpton has to arrive. Okay, understand? Better go underground. Forget about Al Sharpton.
Rabbi, you have the opportunity to bury the mace in Eretz Israel. Is it worth the delay?
There's a schus to be buried. It's special. If you bury in Eretz Israel, it says avonosav nimcholim. The sins are forgiven. It has special value. The olden days, people buried in Eretz Israel. Look, it could have taken 2 weeks to get there. So Gemara in Moed Katan about it, where there's a whole idea of Kivrei Avos, not Eretz Yisrael, to be buried in the family plot, and it would take weeks. They would travel with the body for weeks to the point where the body would deteriorate. There was in the question some of the limbs would fall off the body because the body would decompose. It's Gemara, because there's a location, it's called Stei Bochim. Every community would have a location where they would say eulogies. So when the body was taken from location to location, they would come to that town and they would eulogize the body in that city, that village, even though the person had no relevance to that village. And as they would travel, so the location they would have the eulogy, the body was there. So there's a chance that maybe some of the limbs or a part of the body actually fell off, detached itself, was in that location. The Kohen's not permitted to be there. The location, because of this concern that maybe part of the body was detached and somehow it's there. This is the covenant message, so you can imagine what kind of delay it was. We're talking about weeks till they finally arrived in the family burial plot. Okay, just go a little further. A walled city, where the city was a walled city from Yeshua ben Nun. Krochem and Mukofim, Chomim Moshe like Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, the wall that is in Yerushalayim, the Gemara says, even if the wall no longer stands. Because it says Asher Lo Choma. Asher Lo Choma, it's this coming week, next week's parsha. It says Lo Choma. It does not, of course, speaks of a walled city. It's spelled Lamed Vav Aleph. So it's Lo means it has, and without means it doesn't have. So Lo means, the Gemara says, if it had at one time, although it doesn't have today. So if the city had a wall at Tam Yeshua, although the wall today does not stand, that's classified as a walled city. Okay?
There are no other cities, are there?
Tveria is a suffix. It's a suffix.
But it has to be an
Jericho is doesn't make a difference, but it was there. It's there.
How about Shushan?
Shushan not. The Gemara says not. Shushan was only a walled city time of Achashverosh. When Yeshua came into Eretz Yisrael, that wall did not stand. Shushan. Okay? It has to be Moshe Yeshua ben Nun. So there's a famous Yerushalmi. It's a famous Yerushalmi. Why Yeshua ben Nun? It's a rabbinic law. The reason is that, the Jews spent 70 years in Bovel. Ezra brought them back. The Jews initially didn't want to go back. Why? What was the state, the physical state of Eretz Yisrael? Everything was destroyed. Everything was ruined. They said, what are we going back to? We're not interested in going back. So when after the Mishna Berura Purim happened during this period of time. So there's always this concept of nostalgia. Remembering the glory of one time, the glory of the Jewish people. One was the real glory, Yeshua ben Nun, the conquest. He came in, miracles, took over the country, the land, within 7 years. 7 years conquest, 7 years dividing. Right? That's what happened. So when they legislated Law Megillah, they said if it's a walled city, it's a special city. Why is it special? Yeshua ben Nun. To give people that sense of Eretz Yisrael, to bring back the memory of Yeshua ben Nun, the days of glory. And that would make Eretz Yisrael more attractive, that the people would want to return to their original glory, to rebuild it, to restore that original glory. That's the basis why they legislated this concept that if it's a walled city from Yeshua ben Nun's time, the reading is different, because the Gemara says Shushan is not a walled city from Yeshua ben Nun's time. It's not. It's Moshe Achashverosh. He built the wall around the city, Shushan. So Shushan, the Gemara says you read it on the 15th. If you're in Persia, here, Rabbi, if you're invited by the Ayatollah to come to Shushan, you read the Megillah on the 15th. Although that wall, somewhere says, because the nest took place there. That's the exception. But anywhere else, the wall has to be been from Yeshua ben Nun's time. That's Emor Megillah.
So today there are only two places.
There's a whole question, the wall of China.
Ah, yeah.
The wall of, but it's not enough because the wall doesn't fully encircle. It's not. That's the reason. It's only, the Gemara says, has to encircle it on all sides. The reason why Tveria is a question, is because 3 sides has a wall, but the fourth side is the sea.
Right.
So Gemara has a question, is it, what's the value of a wall? Is it to repel the enemy? So if it's to repel the enemy, so from the seaside, also, they can't come from the sea so easily. Or is it it has to be enclosed on all 4 sides? Factually, the fourth side is open. It remains a suffix, so therefore it says in Tveria, they read it on both days. They read it on the 14th and the 15th. So if you remember, we once mentioned Iran. David. They would remember this. It's not quite mitzvah shichas kavana, but it's similar to that. The Gemara says the Gemara says in Psochim, in Arvi Psochim, that when you drink the arba kosas, you have to recline. 4 cups of wine, right? Reclining is chirus. So the Gemara has this question: is machlokes, which cups do you recline? The first 2 or the last 2? It's a machlokes amorim. It's not resolved. So Gemara says that since it's not resolved, we recline for all 4 cups. So the reason why we recline for all daled kosas is because it hasn't been resolved, this question. So the Ran asks, one who says Savi Drabanan L'Kula. The obligation to drink the cups of wine is Drabanan. Reclining is Drabanan. So you come to the first 2 cups, Savi Drabanan L'Kula. You come to do I recline the first 2? It's a question. Savi Drabanan L'Kula. Come to the last 2, Savi Drabanan L'Kula. Right? The Ran asks the same question with Tveria. I come to the 14th. Is this a walled city? Maybe. Savi Drabanan L'Kula. Come to the 15th. Again, is it a walled city? Not sure. Right? 14th, it may be a walled city. So if that's the case, I have no obligation. Savi Drabanan L'Kula. Come to the 15th. It may be an open city. So if it's an open city, my obligation was yesterday, not today. So then, what's going to end up not reading the Megillah, and you're going to end up not reclining. But every Jew has an obligation to recline. So since you definitely have the obligation, and if you approach it this way, you're definitely not going to address your obligation. So the only way you could cover your obligation, you have to recline for all the cups, and you have to read the Megillah both days. That's famous Ran. So the Chassam Sofer uses this Ran. There was a Shiloh. Person had yahrzeit, and he wasn't sure, was it the first of the day, the second day? So he can only get the Amud. He goes to the Shamas in the shul. He says, I'm not sure my yahrzeit. Is it Aleph or Beis? So the Shamas says, look, if you're not sure, we can't give you the Amud, because it may be tomorrow. He comes tomorrow to the Amud. The Shamas says, but it may have been yesterday. Do you not allow him to take the Amud? Some Sofer says he has the Amud both days. That since he definitely has an obligation to memorialize his parents on the yahrzeit, and there's no way to do it other than having davening both days, therefore he has priority on the Amud, Aleph and Beis, based on this Ran. That's the psak of the Chassam Sofer. Okay? It's a different story. No, so that's the whole discussion. But the Gemara says if you could see it, a walled city reads on the 15th. What about a city that you're able to see it from a distance, even up to 15 miles? No, any part of the city, 15 miles away. Unless you're on top of a mountain, you can look down, you can see it. That's the same status as Yerushalayim. That's the reason. If it's within 2,000 amos, even if visually you can't see it. But if you could see it, even if it's up to 15 miles, you could see it. 15 miles doesn't mean mile, it means mil. 15 times 2,000 amos. You're within that proximity. That's called nira. It's nira or samuch. Right, even though the wall. Okay, you're right, correct. What? There's a Ritva. There's a Ritva in Megillah on it. We'll discuss it on next time we learn it. Look, I didn't take engineering as my, as my major, so I'm not sure. I know. Okay. But it's irrelevant. It doesn't encircle it anyway. Yeah, exactly.